All right, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Daniel Shelagowski. Today I'm going to be talking about integrating artificial intelligence in music, kind of more specifically focused on classical music. So, a couple things that I'll go over today. First of all, we'll look at an overview of AI and its current usage in music, my own personal research related to AI in music, some of the things that I've done with like music generation, music analysis, AI tools for music, my thoughts on the future of AI in music, and some concluding thoughts at the very end. So, just as a quick rundown of who I am, I'm a UW Whitewater alumni. I did my bachelor's in music education and computer science, and then immediately after, I did my master's in computer science. My master's thesis was on deep learning for musical form recognition and analysis. I made an AI model that basically did music form analysis. We'll talk about that soon. And then I did my PhD in artificial intelligence right afterward, where my dissertation focused on choral music generation using deep learning models, so four-part SATB choral music. And then I've done some other things in between. So, in terms of significance, the integration of AI within the music industry represents a pretty significant development in the fields of music production, composition, and analysis. As these technologies continue to advance, their application in music generation not only is redefining traditional creative processes, but it's also challenging our understanding of artistic expression and authorship. That's a pretty big ethical question that we've started to try and work on solving. So this presentation aims to provide a comprehensive overview of the current role of AI in music with a focus on music generation tools. Through an examination of recent research and practical applications, we'll explore how AI is being utilized by composers and producers, the implications for the music industry, and the potential future trajectory of AI driven music innovation. So, when we talk about AI in music, AI in music typically refers to the application of things like machine learning algorithms, neural networks, and deep learning, procedural and genetic algorithms, cellular automata, probabilistic models like Markov chains, mathematical models, and other computational techniques to perform tasks traditionally carried out by human musicians and producers. You can also check out the fields of signal processing and music perception and cognition. These fields study a lot of these sorts of things on more of a deeper computational level. These sorts of AI tasks typically include things like composition, arrangement, performance, and audio processing, among other things. For historical context, the use of AI in music dates back to the mid 20th century with early experiments in algorithmic composition, where computers were programmed to generate musical sequences based on predefined rules. Over the decades, advancements in computing power and AI research have enabled much more sophisticated applications like real time improvisation or adaptive soundtracks and personalized music recommendations. Anytime that you've used something like Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music, whatever it's called these days, or any other sort of music source, even just online shopping, anything that provides you some recommendations, those are all powered by machine learning models that are being trained on your listening history. They want to provide you something to keep listening to their service or keep using their service. So, current impact, AI is now an integral part of the music industry, whether we know about it already or not. And this already is influencing various aspects of music creation and consumption. That goes from automating the composition process to enhancing audio production quality. AI tools are being increasingly adopted by musicians and producers basically every single second. But this integration raises important questions about the role of human creativity in an era where machines can autonomously generate music. So let's take a brief look at sort of my own personal research. Very first paper that I did was one of my first research papers that I did for grad school. I did a paper on generative deep learning models for virtuosic classical music. My focus was to investigate the limitations of current AI generated music, particularly the lack of adherence to realistic compositional techniques from actual music theory rules. The research aimed to develop a more sophisticated generative model that could produce classical music compositions nearly indistinguishable from those created by renowned composers. The model that I had made used what's called a generative adversarial network combined with a support vector machine to enhance the quality of the AI generated music. A GAN is basically a type of model that has a generator part that makes the music, and then a discriminator that tells the generator, yes, this looks realistic or not. And then they keep playing this game of back and forth until the model can create really good music. And then an SVM tells kind of the degree of how far away that music is separable from realistic, actual human music. So what's the margin of AI-ness compared to humanness? So by making a model that can generate more realistic music, we want something that can produce more confusingly human-sounding results. The study that I did revealed that traditional GAN-based music generation often results in compositions that lack musicality and require manual correction. By subdividing the training data into more specific categories based on things like rhythmic pace and melodic structure, the refined models produced compositions with much more improved musicality. By grouping together songs that had very similar melodic structure or rhythmic structure, those models were able to create much more realistic music. In fact, the music that I trained my model on were the Paganini caprices, so just solo violin. The pieces that were more similar to each other in terms of melody and rhythm, those models that I had trained those pieces on were able to make much more realistic music. But there's still a lot of work to be done with that sort of model and that sort of AI architecture in general. The next paper that I did was actually for my vocal pedagogy class. I had made a model on emotion recognition for singing voices, in terms of, kind of in the hopes of making like a real-time analysis tool for singers. So this study explored how emotions can be recognized and classified in singing voice recordings, particularly focusing on the challenges of analyzing both noiseless and noisy data. So my research aimed to develop a real-time analysis tool that could accurately detect emotional content in singing, potentially enhancing things like biofeedback applications for singers and educators. There is a database called the Ryerson Audiovisual Database of Emotional Speech and Song, or RAVDAS, which includes audio recordings of various emotions expressed through singing. I use that to train what's called a convolutional neural network, which takes in typically like 2D data. So one of the things that we can provide a model that uses 2D data like images would be things like the spectrogram. So if I take the spectrogram of these singing voice graphs, basically, I hopefully can take and put that into a model and then have it spit out, yes, this looks like this person is singing about something happy or something angry or something sad, just by looking at the spectral waveform, essentially. Oh, and then one of the things that I did was I had made a script to isolate the vocals from the rest of the background, so a noise reducer, and then I had separated out the audio into different segments. So say, you put in a recording, and then every 30 seconds it tells you what emotion you were singing at that point in time. This model actually worked out really well. It achieved approximately a 73% accuracy in recognizing emotions from the singing voice. While the model performed reasonably well, particularly in distinguishing emotions in both isolated and accompanied vocal segments, it struggled with instrumental music due to lack of specialized training data. So I tried to do what's called transfer learning, where we take a model that's trained on one task and then try to apply it to something else, usually with like minimal retraining, or sometimes not at all. Sometimes things just work. Even then, using some progressive techniques, the model's accuracy plateaued somewhere around 70% and wouldn't really go any further than that. There is room for improvements in accuracy and robustness, especially. The ability to process noisy data and provide real-time feedback is promising for future applications, but the current model requires further refinement, especially in handling more complex audio scenarios and improving its adaptability to a wider range of emotions and acoustic properties. I think for this research project, I had maybe six or eight different emotions that it would classify. But I mean, if there was a larger database now, or even without a larger database, I could probably do much better than this. This was back in 2021. I could probably make a better model now, but again, the lack of a database is more so what holds things back. Right after that, I did my master's thesis on deep learning for musical form recognition and analysis. This was actually published with the help of my advisor, Dr. Mukherjee, in the computer science department, along with Dr. Benjamin Whitcomb, here in the music department at UW-Whitewater, who was also on my thesis committee. This was published in the ISMIR conference back in December of 2022, published as a novel dataset in deep learning benchmark for classical music form recognition and analysis. So in terms of research focus, again, this study focused on the potential of deep learning techniques for analyzing and recognizing the structural forms and phrases in Western classical music specifically. The primary goal was to develop computational tools that could perform automated musical form classification and phrase analysis, addressing the challenge posed by the lack of large label data sets in this domain. So this research introduces the standardized musical form and structured analysis, or what I call the SMIFSA database. I couldn't think of a more interesting name. Consisting of 200 manually annotated classical music pieces in MIDI format. The database is then expanded through augmentation to 1,200 samples using things like pitch shifting, adding noise, all of those sorts of things. Just adding some slight changes to have the same-ish pieces, but with some different tempo or something to make it look like it's a different song. Two key models were developed. I had a form analyzer, which used a type of tree neural network to classify the musical piece into one of 12 different musical forms, like binary form, sonata, rondo, etc., and a phrase analyzer, which employed a bidirectional long short-term memory network, which is like a neural network that's really good at learning things over time steps. In this case, back and forth in two different directions, so it can look ahead and look backward. Combined with a decision tree to segment and label musical phrases. The models were trained and evaluated using cross-validation and compared to some other state-of-the-art models in music analysis. The form analyzer achieved a classification accuracy of 83.9%, outperforming several other classification methods, including vanilla CNNs and neural decision trees. The phrase analyzer, evaluated using a rubric-based grading system rather than traditional accuracy metrics, achieved a weighted score of about 80%, demonstrating consistency with human analysts. The study found that deep learning models could successfully automate the complex task of musical form and phrase analysis, providing results that aligned reasonably closely with human expert analysis. So by combining vanilla machine learning models and deep learning models, I was able to make something that was much more effective than one or the other, using this combination or this hybrid type of model. This success also suggests that these sorts of techniques can outperform or perform reasonably similar to actual music theorists for things like form classification and phrase labeling. But there's also lots of room for improvement, including the refinement of a peak picking algorithm. So in my case, I used an algorithm from another research paper that would take the piece of music and then break it down into its musical phrases and then give me some rough estimation of where those phrases occur. That way I could label them using my phrase analyzer. And again, the potential of more sophisticated learning approaches to enhance model accuracy. Right after that was my dissertation on choral music generation, again using a deep hybrid learning approach. So I tried to, again, focus on how can I combine machine learning and deep learning models, deep learning meaning neural networks, to create a much more sufficient music generation model than what we currently have. This is a work in progress I'm planning to publish in the TISMIR or TISMIR or whatever, the transactions in the International Society for Information Retrieval. So the research focus for this was to investigate the potential of AI to generate realistic four-part or SATB choral music that adheres to classical composition rules. So going back to my very first research paper where I found that, most of these models couldn't create something reasonably accurate to things like, common practice period composition conventions. My goal was kind of focused on three questions specifically. Can existing machine learning architectures generate musically realistic SATB choral music? Is it possible for a human AI model to produce compositions indistinguishable from those created by human composers as perceived by the general public? And how do individuals with varying musical backgrounds perceive AI generated classical music differently? So, this research introduces the Choral GTN, or Generative Transformer Network System, which is a novel hybrid AI model that combines the network with a rule-based post processing system. So the model was trained using what I call the Choral dataset. It's the Choral Harmony Optimized repository for AI learning, which includes 1,000 MIDI files of SATB choral music curated and augmented to enhance training effectiveness. The hybrid model leverages deep learning for the initial music generation and then applies music theory-based corrections to ensure adherence to classical composition rules. The generated compositions were then evaluated through a comprehensive public survey where participants of varying musical expertise assess the realism and kind of the indistinguishability of the AI-generated music. My findings for this were pretty successful. I found that the Choral GTN system successfully generated choral music that was largely indistinguishable from human compositions, particularly among listeners with less specialized music training. The survey that I did, I had 500 people respond to like a 6-point Likert scale survey that would be like, I strongly believe that this is AI, or I strongly believe that this is human composed, and then, 3 steps in between on each side. The survey revealed that overall, participants struggled to differentiate between AI generated and human composed pieces, demonstrating the model's effectiveness. However, there were significant perceptual differences between groups with different levels of musical training, particularly between music professionals and students, highlighting nuances in AI generated music perception. So, this kind of opens up a larger future research question. The study confirmed the feasibility of using a hybrid deep learning model to generate realistic choral music, that follow these classical composition techniques. While the Choral GTN model effectively mimicked human composition techniques, the research also identified a few challenges, such as the model's difficulty in autonomously generating cohesive compositions without initial inputs, and the need for further refinement in post-processing to better adhere to complex voice leading rules. So this kind of brings to light a few problems that we currently have. For one, this model you can just push a button and it'll generate a brand new piece of music. But you can also provide it with like a seed, like a set of starting notes for, all 4 voice parts if you'd like. And it's typically better or more performant when you give it a starting point. Like I tested it with some Schubert pieces, for example. Just, here's the melody line for a Schubert voice piece. I want you to turn this into a 4-part choral piece of music. Those tended to be much more realistic sounding than just, all right, I'm pushing a button, good luck, make something that sounds good. And that even goes to, I had this rule-based post-processing system. I had a Python script that would take the output MIDI from the AI model and then run it through a set of rules to try and fix voice leading problems like parallel fifths, parallel octaves, weird leaps, non-diatonic notes. In this case, I wanted it to be almost entirely diatonic, or within the key. and a few other things, and that would go back and kind of fix those things. The way that I went about it, I realized probably wasn't the most effective. I've thought about some better ways since using operations research strategies with optimization, but future research problem. And then my most recent paper actually comes from this last summer, which was the simulation of neural responses to classical music using organoid intelligence methods. So this study investigated a new field called organoid intelligence. That's basically just less than like a year and a half old or so. How can OI be leveraged to simulate neural responses to classical music, specifically through the development of a deep organoid learning model I called Pianoid? So this research basically aimed to create a model that could predict EEG responses to a human, person listening to classical piano music. So I had a set of EEG responses for I think it was 21 piano pieces. I wanted to train an AI model that could be run on a simulated brain organoid to kind of give me back very similar EEG responses. What do the brain waves look like when a person listens to classical piano music, and how can I simulate that in a simulated organoid that kind of represents the brain in a way, kind of like an ear, like just an ear AI or OI. So I made a new Python library called PyOrganoid to simulate organoid learning, and then I used a bidirectional long short-term memory model again. In this case, for backward and forward, long-term structured learning, basically. Trained on a dataset from another research paper that was called Joint EEG fMRI recording during affective music listening. The BIOS-TM network predicts the EEG responses from audio features, which are then simulated in a virtual organoid environment using the framework that I created. The pre-processing of EEG data included bandpass filtering and artifact correction, while audio features were extracted using the Mel frequency Kepstrel coefficients, which comes from the spectrogram. The findings of this, I was able to successfully simulate EEG-like responses to classical music, with the BIOS-TM network achieving moderate predictive accuracy. Again, 21 pieces of music is a pretty low amount for a data set, especially for something like this, but I would call it good enough for proof of concept. And again, there were discrepancies in the amplitude and phase of the predicted signals compared to the actual EEG recordings. But the power spectral density, or PSD analysis, indicated that the model could replicate the overall shape of the EEG spectrum, but struggled with accurately representing the full spectral characteristic. So this was basically just a way to demonstrate the feasibility of using organoid intelligence methods to simulate complex neural responses to music. Highlighting the potential of combining deep learning with organoid simulations. But there's obviously further refinement to be done, and obviously there's lots of things that we need to further refine to accurately model neural processes just in general, and anything involving biological realism in simulations. There's much more research to be done, and a lot of math to be worked out to create more effective models. So my research conclusions in terms of advancements in AI-driven music composition. Across various studies, AI models, particularly those utilizing deep learning and hybrid architectures, have shown significant potential in generating music that closely mimics human compositions. In terms of effectiveness of hybrid models, so using machine learning combined with deep learning, or other sort of systems, combining these models, like generative models, with rule-based systems, tended to enhance the musicality and realism of AI-generated compositions. For AI's role in music perception, the surveys that I did indicate that general audiences, regardless of musical background, often struggle to distinguish AI-generated music from human compositions. Obviously, this is different for trained musicians that may have a stronger capability in discerning subtle differences. In terms of challenges for future directions, even though a lot of these models were pretty successful, AI models still face challenges in generating fully autonomous, coherent compositions without human input. And finally, for music education and creation, AI music tools have the potential to revolutionize music education and composition, offering new resources for learning and creativity. Alright, now let's continue our discussion with AI tools for music specifically. So, in terms of AI music generation tools, the integration of AI within the music industry represents a pretty significant development for the fields of music production, composition, and analysis. As these technologies continue to advance, their application in music generation is not only redefining creative processes, but also challenging our understanding of artistic expression and authorship. So one of the big questions that everyone's asking today is who owns AI generated music? That's a pretty strong ethical dilemma that we have yet to have like a strong answer for. So through the examination of recent research and practical applications, we'll explore how AI is being utilized by composers and producers, the implications for the music industry, and the potential future trajectory of AI-driven music innovation. So one of the first ones that I want to talk about, that's a pretty important one, I would say, is Google Magenta. Google Magenta is an open source research project developed by Google Brain, focused on exploring the role of machine learning in the creative process. So their goal as researchers is to empower artists and developers by providing tools and models to help them create new forms of art and music through AI-driven techniques. They have a program called Magenta Studio, which originally used to be a set of multiple different programs. Now it's a set of plugins for the program Ableton Live, which makes it easier for musicians to interact with AI-generated music and allow them to integrate AI into their creative workflows without needing deep technical expertise to make these kinds of models. So Magenta Studio is being used by musicians to explore, new compositional ideas, create tracks that blend human creativity with AI generative capabilities, and produce new, innovative, and original music. Magenta offers a variety of models and tools for music generation, including things like Melody, RNN, Recurrent Neural Network, and Music VAE, a variational autoencoder, along with more recent transformer models, which can generate things like melodies, harmonize existing tunes, and even create complex compositions. So this is kind of a quick overview of what these different Magenta Studio programs look like. There's a continuation one about at the very top to generate, extensions of phrases. There's a drumify rhythm creator thing, a 4-bar phrase generator, a groove generator, and a music interpolator. So very, very cool AI-driven technologies. In terms of current state-of-the-art research tools, Google has another one called Music LM, which is Music Language Model, which generates high-quality music from text descriptions capable of producing various genres and styles. It excels in creating coherent and contextually accurate compositions based on detailed prompts, kind of like ChatGPT for music. Speaking of OpenAI has two of them. One of them is called MuseNet, which is a deep neural network that generates multi-instrumental compositions across different genres that can blend different styles and create more complex music. They also have OpenAI Jukebox, which I would say more people have probably heard of. Jukebox can generate complete songs, including lyrics and vocals, as well as imitating specific artist styles. This is one that kind of popped up very early on, doing things like, imitating artists like Frank Sinatra, for example. So now we have more artist-specific AI-generated music. Along with Facebook or Meta, they have a model called MusicGen, which creates music from text prompts efficiently with high-quality output. So it's designed to be user-friendly and have very minimal resources needed to do this advanced music generation. The one that I really want to focus on is one that I discovered recently, just over, I would say, maybe the end of last spring or so. One called Suno. So Suno, or Suno.com, is an advanced AI-driven music generation tool designed to create high-quality original music tracks across various genres. So again, it's using deep learning models to make music that can be used in various different contexts, including film scores, commercials, and personal projects. It's got quite a few different features and capabilities, one of the big ones being genre versatility. So Suno can generate lyrics and music in a wide range of genres, from classical and jazz to electric and pop, including the vocals, making it suitable for diverse musical needs. In terms of customizability, users can, I would say, roughly specify style choices like tempo, mood, and instrumentation, allowing for more tailored music generation that fits specific project requirements. And in terms of the output, Suno is unbelievably realistic. I would say already with just being a few iterations into their model, it's a very professional sound quality. I would say suitable for commercial use, and provides outputs in various formats to meet different production needs, like audio and video with like lyrics. You'll see that in a moment. So I've got a couple different examples. I'll just play these. I'll play like 30 seconds of these just so you can hear. But you can see the full presentation later on that has the whole clip. I'd say, well, perfect cadence right there. That's a good spot to end on. I believe the prompt that I used for this one was just something along the lines of a classical piano piece in the style of like Mozart, ish, something along those lines. You'll see some of the prompts that I've used for these. That's a good spot. So that one, whoops, sorry. That one I believe I picked like a classical string quartet, kind of romantic era, something along those lines. And then this last one, this is a piece with vocals, and then they have one of their export options is a video, so I included the video, which has like a lyric sync up already built into it. So this is you can see it's a classical art song, romantic era, kind of Germanic, lied song.
In the night so calm I wander, mood above with gentle glow. Dreams of love now pull me under, whispered secrets soft and slow. Silent shadows cross the meadow, stars they twinkle in the sky. Heart in pain yet finds its echo with trees and wind's soft sigh. Oh, my love in moonlit dreaming, where the night and stars align. Pain and joy both intertwining in this world of ours divine. Sweet call so softly spoken, in the stillness of the night lies a promise never broken, in the pale and tender light. Love's one touch though stained with sorrow, lingering through endless time. In each dream there's bright tomorrow, in each heart a gentle chime. Moon and night in sad embrace, shadows dance without a trace. Dreams that weave through time and space, love paints tender, haunting grace.
So pretty realistic. And there's ones that have more realistic sounding voice, but I mean that's already very well articulated, very surprisingly realistic voice sound in terms of like vibrato pattern and all of those sorts of things. Very beautiful. And then one that I found very recently, like recently as in like just like a week ago or so, is one called Udio, or Udio.com, which is a cutting edge AI music generation tool very similar to Suno that provides users with more enhanced control over pretty much every aspect of the composition process. Again, designed to create high quality original music tracks, also allowing for a bit more of a like a granular approach to customization. So I would say it's more better for professional and creative projects alike, including things like advertisements, film, personal ventures, etc. So Udio, compared to Suno, offers I would say more fine-grained controls than typical music generators, allowing users to adjust parameters like prompt strength, seed, clip, and timing, clarity, and overall generation quality for a surprisingly personalized output, with very similar tools to Suno for things like song extension and in painting post generation. There's also pretty granular control over lyrics, so users can fine tune the strength and timing of generated lyrics, offering more flexibility to match vocal timing with the music or desired emotional tone. And again, very high quality production, very professional grade audio suitable for things like commercial applications and high end productions. So I've got just a couple examples of Udio, just because they take a little bit longer to generate. So these ones are a little bit more special, I would say. So this is supposed to be like a solo cello piece, and honestly, it's got a pretty realistic cello sound, very clean cello vibrato that does not at all, to me, sound like something that would be like a synth, or a sample of some sort. So this one was supposed to be like a solo clarinet piece, and then this one is vocals.
In a forest deep, so still, moonlight silver star to fill, mountains high, shadows thrill, silent night our brings fulfill. Whispered winds through ancient trees, echoed love amid the breeze. Stars will shine through life's unease, in the night our worry cease. Dreams so pure beneath the sky, hand in hand we lie nearby. Death but whispers as we try, in our hearts love will not die. Out twilight's low mountain peak, moonlight kisses pale and sleek. In the night our souls may speak, truths we know but dare not seek.
So this one was meant to be just like a solo tenor voice piece that turned out to be a lot more dramatic than I expected. I would say this is very much it's kind of like a blend of like Edward Elgar and Mozart, kind of like a the Marriage of Figaro kind of very operatic drama. I was very surprised at the quality that it was able to output, especially with the kind of the tonal flexibility and the accompaniment from the orchestral background as well. Extremely impressive. I've listened to this a million times, and it blows me away every time. So just a quick overview of some recent literature things. A couple of models that I reviewed more so during my dissertation. In 2011, there was a model called Super Willow that uses hidden Markov models, mathematical thing, and prediction suffix trees to generate two-voice harmony by modeling chord progression, melody, and rhythm. It's a pretty early demonstration of AI music generation's potential, but it's limited to pretty basic harmonic structures. In 2017, there was DeepBach, which is a deep generative learning model for creating Bach-like chorales using a neural network and LSTM. That was very successful in creating fairly indistinguishable pieces from Bach's original works in human evaluations. There was DeepJ as well, that was used to generate polyphonic music with styles tailored to various classical composers using a similar biaxial LSTM architecture. Again, kind of focused on more distinct stylistic features. And one of the big ones, the major one that kind of changed everything, was Music Transformer in 2019 that improved long-term coherence in AI-generated music using relative self-attention. So the model can kind of basically pay attention to what's come before it so that it has a better idea of creating longer compositions. So more realistic, more compelling structure, more classical style form that can last a surprisingly decent length compared to other types of generative models. There's a couple other ones in here. There's one called Morpheus that uses a more algorithmic approach for long-term structure and tonal tension. One recently from Ismir called SymphonyNet that uses a byte pair encoding algorithm to create realistic symphonies. That's like a full orchestral piece style. Very strong model there. There was Melloform that combines different types of expert systems with neural networks to generate melodies with controlled musical form and rich expression. Again, kind of more focused on creating melodies that adhere to specific musical forms. And lastly, Transformer GAN in 2022 that generates music conditioned by emotional states using a combination of transformers and generative adversarial networks. Kind of more designed to capture specific emotional profiles. A couple other music generation tools that you can find online are, Iva.ai, Beethoven.ai, Sounddraw.io, Mubert.com, and then Audiocraft by Meta AI, which is the Facebook research group. So I want to give you a quick demonstration of these different tools. I've got Suno pulled up, and I've got a couple of prompts down here to choose from that you can see. I'll just pick two of them. I'll pick this one. Let's do classical cello piece from Romantic era, Brahms, Mahler, Bach, Beethoven, cello concerto, solo cello and piano, slow. So if I go to suno.com, I'm already logged in. I'm going to hit create. I'm going to paste in my song description and change it to instrumental. And you can also do custom for kind of more robust control, like you can change the song title. But I'm just going to hit create. And then down here at the very bottom is where my new song will pop up. It takes a minute to generate, but this will give me basically a brand new piece of music pretty quickly. So let's take a listen. So, nice thing with Suno is you can actually listen to things while it's being generated, so you can see the progress bar being kind of filled more and more across as it generates more of the piece. And it generates two at a time, so I can listen to this other one. And you can see once it finishes generating a piece, I also have the option to extend it. Over here I have some previous ones I did, multiple parts, and then I combine them into a full song at the end. And let's also do this one with vocals. Let's grab, this is the lyric profile. So I'm going to uncheck instrumental, paste in the lyric profile I want, which is a German-style classical art song about dreaming, the forest, the moon, the mountains, night, death, love, etc. Typical, like a Franz Schubert and Goethe style German art song. I was not expecting it to actually be in German, but that's pretty cool. I've never gotten that before. And let's go grab our style, which is basically the same as the cello one. So classical art song, romantic era, blah blah blah, German classical. And Nachttraume, night dreams. Which is kind of a funny, very German art song name. Very like 1830s German school of art song. So let's listen to this.
In der Dunkelheit der Nacht Träume tanzen leise sacht, Sterne glänzen hoch am Baum, flüstern sanft im stillen Raum. Durch den Wald ich einsam geh, wo die Bäume stillstehen seh. Mondlicht füllt die Welt mit Glanz, Schatten weben ihren Kranz. O Nacht, bring mir dein Schweigen, träume mich im Dunkel wiegen. Liebe fließt in sanften Wellen, in der Ferne stehen hohe Felsen.
Let's take a look at this other one really quick.
In der Dunkelheit der Nacht Träume tanzen leise sacht, Sterne glänzen hoch am Baum, flüstern sanft im stillen Raum.
Honestly, very beautiful. Really pretty piano accompaniment introduction as well. So you can only imagine what kind of things that you can get from just repeatedly doing the prompt generation over and over again. So with that, let's quickly talk about the future of AI in music, and then we'll wrap things up. My predictions and trends in terms of things like evolving AI capabilities. AI models are expected to become increasingly sophisticated with the potential to generate more complex, multi-layered compositions that go far beyond current limitations. That includes things like better handling of long-term structures, emotional dynamics, and genre-specific nuances. We'll also probably see the rise of AI-powered composition assistants integrated into music software like Ableton, offering real-time suggestions, automated harmonization, and style implementation. AI could also become a valuable tool for real-time music creation and live performances and interactive media. I'd also suggest checking out SonicPy. It's a programming language for live music performance. And this is kind of where my dissertation was focused on. I wanted my Choral GTN model to be something that I could ideally turn into something, and I could take the current code and turn it into something like a MuseScore plugin. I'm going to write the soprano line, and I want this AI model to generate all the other voice parts. In terms of creativity, originality, and authorship, the growing role of AI in music definitely raises critical questions about creativity and authorship. Who owns AI generated compositions, and how should credit be attributed? So the industry is going to need to develop new frameworks for copyright and intellectual property rights as AI generated works become more prevalent. With Suno, for example, you retain monetization privileges for songs generated under a premium account, similar to OpenAI's DALI model. And in terms of adaptation, as AI tools become more integrated into music production, the industry will need to adapt, balancing the benefits of AI with the need to preserve the human element in music creation. So, musicians, educators, and technologists will all play key roles in shaping how AI is used responsibly and ethically in the creative process. So, understanding and integrating AI in the music industry is crucial as it opens new possibilities for creativity, innovation, and personalized listener experiences. AI offers very powerful tools that can complement human creativity, leading to the development of new musical forms, educational platforms, and live performance technologies. The most important thing, as with most technologies, AI is the worst today that it will ever be. The field is growing faster than ever. But I have learned personally that the field of what we call computational musicology is growing surprisingly slowly. There's a very distinct lack of researchers with expert training in both computer science and musicology, like myself. So if you have an idea that pairs the two, the chances are more likely than not that it hasn't been done before. So, please let me know, or please become a part of the field, and you know, uh, take part in some of this research. Even if you work together with someone that does computer science, be a part of this new growing field. But that's all I have for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. You can see my contact information below. You can email me at dsheligowski@gmail.com. You can find my website where I'll have the slides at danielsheligowski.com. I've got an education page that will have the link to the slides. You can see my research projects on GitHub at Daniel@home19, and I have my ORCID ID below. You can also just look up Daniel Sheligowski. I'm the only one. If you want to see all of my different research papers that I've published, and then I've got my different socials that I have down there, all under the same username. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you, and thank you so much for coming.